Hi, this is Lokesh Kumar from Informatica PIM support team. Today I would like to show you installation of Audittrail server of version 8.06.01. This is part 2 installation of Audittrail server of overall installation of PIM Audittrail. Part 1 is installation of PIM Audittrail database, which we already covered. So currently we are covering the part 2 of installation of Audittrail server. To start with agenda, we are going to see what are the prerequisites required for Audittrail server installation. Next we are going to see how to install the Audittrail server in my local environment, then integration of Audittrail and PIM server and perform the Audittrail search. Regarding prerequisites of Audittrail server installation, we need PIM server up and running, then we should have a message queue installed, and then we should have a Audittrail database already. Since we already have Audittrail database covered in part 1, so we can use it here. Let me show you in my local environment. So this is my local environment where I have PIM server up and running, server started. I started from console. The second one is message queue. Just download the message queue from my support portal. Download the PIM third-party software zip file where you will find message queue within the zip file. Just extract this message queue to anywhere like C drive message queue. And if you want a message queue to be listening on some host, host like with IP or the host name, just go to ActiveMQ conf directory, then open activemq.xml file, search for transport connector, where here transport connector by default is 0.0.0.0. that means it's listening on local host. If you want to change the host, then you can change it, or if you want to change the port 61616, you can change it, and then you need to start the ActiveMQ. But for now I have everything in local host on the same VM, so I don't want to change it. Just go back and try to install it as a service. If you want to install, then go to bin directory corresponding win 32 or 64 based on the bit version. Just run install service command. So once you run the batch file, you should be able to see the service ActiveMQ. You can just start it as a service. If you want to run it from the console, from the command line, just go to message queue base directory and run startup 32 or startup 64.batch file. See, I have run from the console to see if there are no errors. See, it's entirely started, connectors are already started, so I don't see any issues. So to make sure that web console ActiveMQ console is coming up, just search for localhost in my case, then port 8161. It will show you the ActiveMQ base page. So once you have it, just click on manage AMQ broker. It will ask you username and password. Please note that from 8.06.01 we are shipping message queue 5.14 version, which have a default security enabled for the console page. So the default username password is admin. So you should be able to see the home queues topics, then click on queues. Here it shows the consumer is by default. If it's a new ActiveMQ, you don't see any queues unless you have Audittrail enabled, unless Audittrail is up and running or Audittrail is already configured. See, currently I have consumer ATCS, which I already have Audittrail up and running. I just wanted to show you that this is the queue name which will be used by Audittrail. So if you want to change the console admin username, you can do it. Just go to ActiveMQ conf realm.properties. So here we define the username, password, and the role. Here admin username, password, and role is already defined from message queue latest version of 8.06.01. So since message queue is up and running and I have Audittrail database, let's go to the next step of installation of Audittrail server. Regarding installation of Audittrail server, we need to edit few properties in same server.properties file which we used for installing database. For additional parameters, here we need to make sure correct our database parameters, the JMX URL, so which is ActiveMQ URL. Since the active message queue is the bridge between Audittrail and PIM server, so this URL should be correct. Then the queue name which need to be used, as I mentioned, virtual topic queue is the one which will be used by Audittrail, which I have showed you already. And authentication enabled. If it's enabled, you need to make sure PIM server is able to connect to Audittrail server with the credentials which you define at Audittrail side. And then you need to, if you want to change the password of the Audittrail server, then you can run the setup underscore console.batch file and run user set password. And we need to start the server either from console or using it or installing it as a service. Let me show in my local environment. Okay, now just go to PIM 80601 Audittrail server and configuration Audittrail server.properties file. Server.properties file, make sure that all the database parameters are correct. While installing the database, you maintain same parameters. Then after that, the new parameters for the Audittrail server to start and connect to message queue is, first one is jms connection.url. Make sure you correct host name and port here, which is a TCP connection here. And then the queue name, you need to give the queue name consumer.atcs virtualtopic.atcs.all. as I mentioned, this is the queue name. As soon as you start Audittrail server, this queue should be appeared with the 20 consumers, because consumer is the count here which will define 20 which are used in a separate session and receive message asynchronously. And then server authentication.enable, if it's true, then you need to make sure you maintain same Audittrail network config.xml at both Audittrail server and at PIM server, here which it defines the username and password to connect to Audittrail server, and the port on which it is running, and the host on which it is listening, and the identifier of the Audittrail server. You need to maintain all these entire this XML file. You should maintain same XML file at PIM server.audittrail. If you want to change this password of administrator, you need to run the corresponding setup underscore console.batch, like under Audittrail server, go to bin, you have a setup underscore console.batch, just run it. Once you have Audittrail server started, just run user set password command space your username for which you want to change the password space old password space new password. If you want to change it to admin as a new password, then you need to run this command and press enter. Currently I don't want to change it, so I'll just keep it the same, close it, and run the Audittrail server. To start Audittrail server, you can run it from the console by running console.batch, or you can install it as a service by running service install command like this. If you run it, you should be able to see the installed service. You can start it as a service, or you can run from the console. I want to run it from the console to see if there are any errors. It is trying to connect to database. Then see Audittrail server is started. Now if you refresh the ActiveMQ console, it should be able to, the Audittrail server should be connected to ActiveMQ, and you should be see number of consumers 20. So the last one is integration of Audittrail server and PIM server. So at PIM server side, you need to make sure Audittrail plugins and features are present. Please make a note that from PIM 806 we are providing the Audittrail plugins within the server plugins already and client plugins, and the features also within the server features and client features. But in case of older versions, we ship it as a part of separate package as server Audittrail and server Audittrail zip file and client Audittrail zip file, which contains only features and plugins related to Audittrail. So in case of older versions, you need to zip the server Audittrail zip file, then you need to copy the features to corresponding server features, and then plugins of Audittrail to corresponding plugins of server. Similarly, you need to follow the same thing at client side also. But in case of 806.1, we are already shipping it. We are already placing those plugins and features within the server and client directory, so you don't need to worry about that. So you can just skip this step in case of 806.1. Then the next one is edit Audittrail properties file, so that you need to enable the Audittrail and make sure you provide a corresponding correct URL of JMS and also connection to Audittrail server. And you need to make sure Audittrail network config.xml is same as I mentioned. If security is enabled at the Audittrail side, you need to make sure you maintain same Audittrail network config XML at both Audittrail server and PIM server side. Now start all the servers which should work. Let me show you in my local environment. Okay, now to integrate the Audittrails with the PIM server, just make sure you have a PIM server features of Audittrail. Yes, I have it, and plugins also of Audittrail. Just search for the plugin. See, you can see Audittrail plugins are present, so you don't need to worry. Just go to server configuration HPM and make sure you have Audittrail network config XML as same as of present in Audittrail server. So it's the same. So this is fine. The next one you need to make sure is Audittrail.properties. Properties, you need to enable the Audittrail first one as a first step. Then you need to make sure you maintain the correct topic name. Actually topic name will be the overall topic, and the queue name is having a prefix of consumer dot. So in Audittrail side server.properties we maintain the actual queue name, but under PIM server side Audittrail.properties we maintain the actual topic name. So make sure both are it is pointing to correct topic, and then the JMS connection URL is correct, localhost 61616, and then just save it and restart PIM server. Let me restart PIM server and show you. Okay, I restarted PIM server. Server is started successfully. If I try to log in to administrator, so after logging into PIM client, make sure first of all you have a message queue up and running. Yes, I have it. Then Audittrail server started. Yes, Audittrail server is started up and running. Now go to PIM rich client. Since it's integrated, just try to create an item. Just as soon as you create an item, just refresh the queue so that the messages should be enqueued and dequeued. See, the messages are increasing and decreasing. Messages are enqueuing and dequeuing. That means PIM server is sending a message to ActiveMQ regarding the change, and it is able to and the Audittrail server is able to dequeue the message correctly. So since everything is working correct, so you can just click on show all changes and you should be able to see the changes. See, it clearly shows editing type as create, and you can perform few other Audittrail searches, like if you just reset it, so you should be able to search based on entity, and the corresponding identifier entity is an item, identifier is article number. Then what if the user specific user's modification changes if you want to look at, then you can specify the user and time frame of changes, and the editing type, whether it's create you want to look at or change or delete. Based on that you can perform the searches. So if something goes wrong, whether the Audittrail or something is not working, then you can just verify it, whether the messages are enqueued or not. If the messages are not enqueued, there is a connection issue or configuration issue between message queue and the corresponding PIM server. If it's not getting dequeued, then there is something configuration issue from message queue to Audittrail. So in that way you can try to debug it, and by default the changes can be tracked on all the entities. If you want to restrict the changes, you can just go to Audittrail server configuration, Audittrail server directory, and go to plugin customization, where you can specify whether you want to skip few entity types, or whether you want to skip few entities, or skip only data sources like main, master, supplier. If you want to activate these, just uncomment out the properties and provide the corresponding values. For example, if you want to skip article type, then you can provide corresponding article type. Else we'll just leave it and comment it out, so that it will by default will be activated on everything. So part 1, as a summary, we went through the part 2. For part 1 you can just go through this YouTube link which is attached in the description, or you can go through the few knowledge base articles for more information and documentation. And yes, we would like to hear from you. Please follow us and support videos at informatica.com or Twitter /infosupport. Thank you.